Story 1. I have no real friends. I never really had any. I'm friendly with people I work or study with, but after that, we never speak again. Story 2. I don't really carry secrets, but my life isn't exactly common knowledge. I can imagine many would see me differently if they knew everything. I have a sister who is 3 years older than me. She was sexually abused by our grandfather from the age of 4 until she was 16, when she finally went to the police. She learned that sex is what we do to those we love, so she abused me when I was 6 until I questioned her actions at 8. When she went to the police, our lives exploded. She became extremely suicidal and attempted suicide every day, often multiple times. To this day, her body is riddled with scars. She felt betrayed by our parents, forbidding them from visiting her when she was in a psychiatric ward, and I was the only one allowed to see her. I was with her every day, listening to her struggles, supporting her, and being strong for her. Then I would go home and retell everything to my parents, watching them crumble while I supported them. I was 13 and a victim myself, yet I felt that if I ever crumbled, my family would fall apart. I promised myself to never show weakness, to never hurt myself, and to ensure we all survive this. At 14, I decided I was done keeping this to myself, so I told my best friend, whom I had known since daycare. I never saw him again after that day. He simply couldn't deal with it. I didn't blame him. If I could have just left, I probably would have. But no matter what I do, this part of me remains, and if people can't accept it, it's better they leave early. From that day on, I told anyone who got close to me about my past and my childhood. In a way, it was therapeutic as I was able to talk about it. However, the focus was always on my sister, the bigger victim. I thought I was fine. My sister had finally stopped being suicidal at 35 after finding effective treatment. I had a loving wife and we planned on having kids. Life seemed okay. Then we had our first child, a boy. I completely broke down the moment I held him in my arms at home. I was overwhelmed by love and a panic that told me I needed to keep him safe. As he grew, I realized that I didn't know anything about being a father and couldn't handle his emotions. His crying triggered me painfully. My therapist believes I'm essentially jealous, that he gets to cry over trivial matters while I was never allowed to express my emotions. I've been spiraling for the last 5 to 6 years. At one point, I was close to suicidal thoughts, believing my family would be better off without me, that they didn't love me, and that I was a horrible father. I wished I had died in a motorcycle accident I had in 2011 or that I could simply disappear. I didn't want them to find me dead. I just wanted to vanish so they could live without me as a burden. Everything came to a head last year when my sister's husband died by suicide. I was at their house the day after, sitting with their children, listening to their pain, hugging them, and answering their questions. Many of their questions echoed thoughts I had started to process. That day was the hardest thing I've ever experienced. I left their house shaking. I knew I had to seek help immediately, or my family would go through the same trauma as I had just witnessed. I reached out to everyone I could, including my boss, whom I had confided in about my struggles over the past 5 years. She activated our company health insurance and emphasized the importance of immediate help. In normal situations, it would take them 14 days to initiate support, but I had a therapist within 4 days of that phone call. That, in my opinion, saved my life. I'm much better now, but I feel like I'm walking on eggshells, waiting for the next crisis. My sister has had a relapse and has been hospitalized twice in the last 2 months. She confided that she had a plan for ending her life. Despite this, she was recently allowed to leave the psychiatric ward, and now I'm anxiously waiting to see if we will lose her as well. I'm doing what I can, but ultimately, I can't stop her if she decides to go through with it. Story 3. People often describe me as sweet, kind, or warm. I try to be nice to people, uplift their spirits, and help them when I can. Inside, I am a huge cynic. The reason I can remain so optimistic is that when you expect the worst in a given situation, you can only ever be pleasantly surprised. I have a low view of human nature and low expectations of most people, and I am rarely surprised by the depths of human apathy or depravity. I keep few friends and am only close with my immediate family. I spread kindness because I do not think there is enough of it in the world and would like to make someone else's day a little brighter. The reason I engage in advocacy is that I believe it's important to use your voice. Not because I expect people to change or strive to be better. This approach works for me, but it tends to lead to a significant difference in how others perceive me and how I perceive myself. Story 4. I really enjoy being cared for. Not in a strange way, though. When my girlfriend and I hug, I love feeling reassured as if I am still a child. That's all. Story 5. If people knew how much I constantly feel like I am not enough, no matter what I achieve, they would see me differently. I seem laid back and confident, but inside, I am overanalyzing everything, second-guessing myself, and wondering if I messed up. I have always felt like I need to keep it together, especially as a man. Show no weakness. But it is exhausting. Most days, I feel like I am just performing a version of myself that people expect. If they saw the doubt and anxiety behind it all, I do not think they would know what to do with it. Maybe they would not even believe it. Story 6. The extent of the childhood abuse I suffered was severe. My father's actions were criminal. I could have become a monster, but thankfully, I escaped from my family and worked hard to heal while raising my children. I don't want people to feel sorry for me or think less of me, so I keep those feelings buried deep inside. Story 7. I am 6 feet tall and weigh 300 pounds. I work as a physical laborer. Most people find me a bit intimidating, but years of emotional and psychological abuse from people I trusted while growing up have made me very scared of most individuals. I am similar to a spider in that I am much more afraid of you than you are of me. Story 8. I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder with a significant amount of toxic shame. My mind often criticizes me and makes me feel self-hatred. I experience hypervigilance and tend to remain in that state when I am around groups of people. I am very quiet and tend to keep to myself. While everyone acknowledges that I am different and appreciates me, I often feel excluded and like an outsider. I have never felt like I fit in anywhere. Story 9. I didn't attend college or obtain a degree. I started working and achieved my current position. If I get fired, I will be in trouble. Story 10. I was a drug addict for years, and nobody knew. I have been clean for years now, but I lived my whole life, job, marriage, house, kids, under the influence. Story 11. I am a sperm donor and have a few children around the world that my kids and ex-partner do not know about. My current partner is aware of it. Story 12. I was addicted to meth for 10 years. I quit 3 months ago. I don't miss it and I don't care who knows. Story 13. I'm known as the happy girl at the office. I'm bubbly, chatty, welcoming, and caring. People remark on it all the time. Who's that? The girl who's always smiling. You're the only one around here who smiles. You're never in a bad mood, are you? I'm struggling. Story 14. I earn significantly more than those around me realize. Only my wife is aware of this. We do not drive luxury cars or reside in a large house. We simply live well below our means. Story 15. People perceive me to be a cold, aloof, and uncaring person. I keep my distance because I'm tired of getting hurt, but I'm essentially like a golden retriever. Affectionate, wanting cuddles and food all the time. Story 16. I have been struggling with depression for at least 40 years, and there is evidence to suggest that I may be bipolar. Some family and friends are aware of certain details. Some have an idea while others know nothing, but by design, nobody has the entire picture. After planning my departure in detail a couple of weeks ago, I am re-entering treatment and may confide in one person because this is exhausting and something needs to change. Story 17. I have brain tumors and will likely be totally deaf before I'm 35. My immediate family knows, and I told a few friends in the past, but we don't really talk anymore. I found out quickly that when I talk about it, all I get is the panicked, "Oh my God, you're dying look," quickly followed by the "Oh, you poor young thing" pity. Honestly, I hate both reactions, so I just don't tell anyone. Not at work, not with friends, definitely not extended family members. Story 18. I put on a front like I'm all right and life is good, but in reality, I'm struggling to make it through each day. I cling desperately to a love I refuse to let go of, while also making it hard on both of us by saying things that are emotionally fueled. I believe in us and that we can get past what has happened, but I also feel as though her heart isn't, and hasn't been, in it because her actions weigh heavily and destroy some of the hope I've had. Story 19. I post many pictures of my body on Reddit primarily for confidence and self-enjoyment. I'm male, so I'll spare many of you the clicks in advance. Story 20. Probably the secrets I have about my fetish. Barely anyone knows about it in my personal life, and I feel they would view me differently. Story 21. My creativity and childishness stem from a desperation to feel something. I'm just coping in hardcore mode. I was traumatized many years ago, and nobody knows. I have been mentally numb ever since. I buy toys from various shows like My Little Pony, Sonic the Hedgehog, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Batman. I create crossovers by taking pictures of them interacting, printing them out, and sticking them in a notebook. I write the context and make a mini storybook crossover. I even bought a bunch of wax seal letter sets and started writing letters between imaginary kingdoms, building a whole fictional world based on that. I tried getting into learning adult topics like economics, finance, and studying robotics, but nothing seems to spark anything within me. Sometimes it feels like I'm going insane. I'm even starting to believe emotions aren't a real thing at all. Story 22. I had a bilateral salpingectomy years ago. The only ones who don't know are my very religious family members. It's easier not to discuss it with them. They would judge, pity, and disparage me, so I'm fine with them believing we simply weren't blessed with children. Story 23. I tend to act pretty independent and quiet, aloof I guess. I seem extremely reserved and introverted, but I am completely addicted to attention. I feel bad if I haven't spoken to someone for a few hours, and I can't go more than a few days without physical affection without breaking down. I spent about 3 years basing my entire self-worth on the fact that someone desired me sexually. Now that we've broken up, I've started compulsively hitting on my friends. The only reason I've begun trying to recover from my eating disorder is that my cup size started going down, and I was relying on the validation of getting compliments when I wore revealing outfits to stay afloat. The only person who has ever noticed this about me is my ex, and I've only ever hinted at it to another close friend. Story 24. I was once homeless for about 6 months. I was undiagnosed attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and really struggling. A lot of bad things happened during that time, but I was able to get myself into a shelter after getting beaten so badly that I ended up in the hospital. From there, I was able to get a job waiting tables, and then I met a wealthy man who fell in love with me and saw me as a project. He admitted me to a very nice mental health facility for 3 months, where I was with well-known individuals. He got me an apartment, paid off all my debt, bought me a car, covered my undergraduate and MBA education at a reputable school where I graduated with honors, and provided me with a monthly allowance of $6,000. We were together for 8 years, and I owe him my life. Hardly anyone from my current life knows any of this. I seem to have had a privileged and blessed life. I have a great job, I'm close with my family again, and I have my life mostly together, thanks to my diagnosis. I got really lucky, but I have been through some difficult times. Story 25. Most people see me as calm and composed, but I experience intense anxiety that I conceal well. I overthink every interaction and often spiral at 2 a.m. If people knew how frequently I doubt myself or rehearse conversations in my mind, they would be surprised. I have become skilled at masking it. Story 26. Nobody actually knows anything significant about me. If they try to get to know me, I'll share one random situation in extreme detail so they think they know a lot when they actually don't. I'm too paranoid for this. Story 27. The amount of physical and emotional abuse I endured until high school was significant. The neglect I experienced from ages 1 to 8 was profound. People often wonder how I am still a fully functional adult. Those who are aware usually have one response. They do not care. If I shared my experiences, perhaps they would understand why I am the way I am. But ultimately, nobody cares, so I keep it to myself. Story 28. I have been a content creator for a year and a half, and for several months I have also been involved in femdom. Only a few people know this. The rest believe that I make my living as a therapist. The truth is that I struggle to grow in that field, and it frustrates me greatly. Story 29. I live in difficult conditions. I cannot get myself to clean or function as an adult. I cannot keep up with bills or focus on anything. I have my own office overlooking the ocean and feel the need to act important. I often feel suicidal. Story 30. I have brain tics where my mind generates the strangest thoughts while I'm trying to focus. If people could see me, I would be locked away in a cave somewhere. Story 31. I am a massive extrovert. Everyone, including my wife, calls me a social butterfly. It all stems from a difficult childhood. My father tried, but his alcohol addiction took over, and all he cares about these days is drinking. My mother was extremely intelligent but also manipulative and neglected me and my 4 half-siblings. I was the oldest, so I basically became the man of the house from the age of 6. I stole food and money to feed my siblings and could always talk my way out of trouble or give some sad story. This progressed in my teenage years to drug dealing and robberies with my friends, which supported my siblings and my growing addiction to opioids. I attempted to stab my mother's abusive boyfriend when I was 11 and had a short stay in a juvenile psychiatric ward. I fought a lot and put my little brother's bully in the hospital. People assumed I was a good fighter, but I was scared before every fight or confrontation I encountered. I have never been one to run, so when the fight or flight response kicked in and the adrenaline started pumping, I always chose to stand my ground for the safety of my siblings and myself. My mother's manipulative side taught me how to adapt to different situations or groups, which I used to benefit myself and my younger siblings. Thus, the social butterfly was born. My wife saved my life when we got together at the end of high school. She saw through all my struggles and always said my eyes showed her that I was in pain, something she could sense. When we finally talked about my troubled past, I broke down and told her everything. I gave up hard drugs, chose to live a sober lifestyle, had a child, and vowed to never let my child endure a fraction of the hardships I encountered. Story 32. Not really a secret, as I sometimes need to explain it to people. I currently live in the town where I was born, but I have traveled around the world and lived abroad for 11 years. My brain operates in English, rather than in my native language. People often think I am slow or unintelligent, but I have to translate my native language into English in my head, taking in the information and then replying in French using the same process. I have definitely improved a few years after returning, but I still go through this process. Story 33. I am a do-gooder who works with many vulnerable individuals who appreciate the difference I have made in their lives. I have received awards for this work. I believe my friends and peers see me as a driven, spiritual person with a purpose. However, I find that who I truly am beneath this exterior might shock people. I experience deep loneliness and often feel like I am not good enough. I have even contemplated self-harm in the nearby woods. Sometimes, I wonder if my desire to help others stems from a need to feel worthy of existing. Story 34. I don't enjoy the company of others. I'm a young, attractive, and athletic woman in my 30s. I'm married and have a dog, and those are the only 2 beings I care for. I don't seek friends or acquaintances outside of this. Every so often I try, but I'm a bad liar, and I can't hide how uninterested I truly am with others. I don't care for my family members, aside from my mother, for whom I feel a basic obligation to care. I don't like my husband's family at all. I wasn't always this way. I'm not sure when it changed. You would never know. I work in the service industry, both in hospitality and fitness. My job requires me to talk and be likable. I'm great at it, but I would never let anybody in. Story 35. I behave appropriately around others, but most of the time I spend in my bedroom is just me enjoying adult animations for hours. I sometimes use 2 devices at the same time. Story 36. Not exactly a secret, but I did not smash my head through a window as a child. I am fairly certain that many people still believe I did, especially since it was only a few years ago that my best friends learned it was not true. Story 37. I went through a phase a few years ago when I was addicted to sex workers. I spent around $15,000 on approximately 25 women from September 2018 to February 2020. Thankfully, COVID happened and that snapped me out of it. A couple of close friends know about this, but I am pretty sure most of my family members and office acquaintances would be astonished. Story 38. I keep a mask on for everyone, even strangers. As soon as I am pretty sure no one is looking, the smile drops. Even if I am across a large room and know someone could possibly glimpse me, I keep the mask up. The few times it slips when I get frustrated, annoyed, or try making a joke that doesn't quite match my friend's humor, I can feel the energy shift. My natural response is to double down on the mask and try to subtly overcompensate. I am exhausted all the time. On a completely unrelated note, does anyone know of a way to get rid of knotted muscles in the shoulder blades and along the spine that doesn't cost a lot? Story 39. Probably the hidden photo albums of Polaroids of my partners and me. Some people might question that. Story 40. My sexuality and kinks. I'm just a normal guy from the Midwest, but when I'm alone, I enjoy cross-dressing and wearing chastity devices while using large toys. If only they knew. Story 41. The unspeakable things I did for this country in a challenging environment full of marvelous, generous, and truly outstanding people. That I was good at it. I am an inter-office educator for a company that manufactures widgets. Story 42. I worked in news. Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell came to the studio for an interview, and I was the one to microphone him. Before he arrived on set, I took the lavalier microphone and placed it back on the table after preparing it. He was microphoned up by me. Story 43. Even though I talk about it, I don't think my friends realize how hard it is for me to socialize. I don't dislike it. I just tend to overthink it a lot before, during, and afterward, and it takes a lot out of me. We often joke about how hard it is to offend me, but in reality, I'm just surprised they even put up with me. I rarely initiate interactions, and I feel like they're already doing me a favor by including me. I can't really discuss it because then I wouldn't be able to tell if they genuinely want to hang out with me or if they're just trying to cheer me up, and I wouldn't know how to make it up to them. Story 44. I have obsessive-compulsive disorder. I go to regular therapy for it, and sometimes I come to work exhausted from exposure and response prevention. I struggle with anxiety and depression. I'm the person who keeps the department together at work. I think if anyone knew how much I struggle to hold my life together, my coworkers would be astonished. I've not told anyone except my spouse that I have this disorder. Story 45. If my dog passes away, I feel overwhelmed by the thought of taking my own life. The idea of him not knowing what happened to me is too heartbreaking to bear. Story 46. I'm just shy. I'm not a bad person. I don't ignore people because I hate them or feel I'm better than them. Story 47. People who know me know I was a soldier, as my tattoos give me away. However, only 2 people know how hands-on my role was, so to speak. My wife and my dad have both supported me during my moments of despair and the lowest points of my life due to the things I have seen and experienced. They are angels for putting up with that. My coworkers do not know I suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder and, more recently, bouts of depression. Most of my friends, except for one very close one, have never seen me like that. When I feel it coming on, I just disappear for a few days from day-to-day life and self-isolate until I am ready to be a functional human and feel comfortable around others. 90% of the time, I am the most relaxed, fun-loving 36-year-old surfer who lives for the ocean and the waves. I have a close social circle, and since I live in a small coastal town, I also have many acquaintances. I am well known in the surfing and fishing community and hopefully well loved. At least that is the vibe I get. I am the kind of guy who says good morning to strangers and familiar faces as I pass by, building friendly relationships with my barista and food market vendors. I will wish you a beautiful day and mean it with all my heart. I hide my struggles well, not out of shame or guilt, but because that is the image I want people to have of me. That is who I am. I am not a 20-something clearing compounds during 3 tours in Afghanistan. I will not share the details, you do not need to know. That is the old me, a version of myself that only my brothers from my unit will ever know. I worry people would see me differently or in another light because they do not know or understand what their country has been involved with for 20 years over there, what it was like on the ground and what we went through. I appreciate their ignorance and definitely do not want anyone feeling sorry for me. That is my worst nightmare. I would not want any civilian to carry that knowledge or truly understand what it was like. It would not be fair to burden them with it, even if I could make them understand. So yes, that is my secret. Thank you for being perfect strangers. Story 48. Formerly fit. I gained about 30 pounds since the pandemic in 2020. I stopped working out, but I still play a lot of sports each week. I feel more confident with my belly than I did when I had abs. I notice mixed reactions, but I think I receive more interest from both women and men with my current physique. Although some have asked if I'm okay due to the weight gain, I'm not sure how to respond. My priorities have changed in life, and I've embraced the pleasure of living, eating, and drinking. I have cut down on alcohol and have been eating much healthier. I also enjoy my larger self, even though society may want me to feel shame. Story 49. I am getting closer to being a closeted atheist, more so than my family and friends would assume or expect. Story 50. People seem to think I'm good-looking, and sometimes I even get accused of being promiscuous. A girl I went on a few dates with said she was surprised I never had a phase of casual relationships. I haven't had sex since I was 17, which was almost 14 years ago. Story 51. Not a secret, but something I wouldn't bring up and wouldn't feel comfortable admitting, though I tend to be openly honest if people ask the right questions. On the surface, I am a kind, rational, and friendly person. I maintain this demeanor with everyone, and most people I know would struggle to criticize my manner. In the past, I experienced mental health issues and struggled with overwhelming intrusive thoughts that took me to dark places. While I never acted on these thoughts, they led me to be a brutal person. For many years, I have been a pacifist and strongly avoid conflict. However, I still have deep, occasionally implacable anger issues, anger so intense it feels borderline psychotic. I've learned to manage my anger, as I haven't let it break out for many years. Yet, when conflict arises, I can feel it simmering below the surface, hoping to break free. It feels like another side of me wanting to emerge, which is why I strive to de-escalate conflicts at all costs. Part of this stems from those twisted thoughts, intense anger, and a heavy dose of sadism. If people truly knew about my past, the things I've been involved in, and the precariousness of my mental state in various situations, I doubt they would ever feel completely comfortable around me. Story 52. Always laugh and smile in the office. Help people with their issues. Encourage everyone to come to me if they are struggling, just as I do with friends and family. Deep down, I have negative feelings towards them and don't care about their problems. However, if you reveal how you truly feel, people tend to act differently around you. Just smile and wave. Story 53. By day, I am a corporate professional in a government job, where I create many spreadsheets. I am well respected and maintain a high level of professionalism. By night, I perform as a drag and burlesque artist with some recognition. Strangers pay well to see my performances. If my coworkers knew I was a non-conforming performer on the side, they would likely be very surprised. Story 54. I manipulate everyone around me. Some people get to see my true self in the best way. Others see the best of me. Most people think I am an amazing human who cares about others. I do not care and I will never care. Just because I lack emotions does not mean I am going out of my way to make people's lives worse. I do not have emotions, but I still try to make life better for others when I can. Story 55. I was sexually assaulted by a girlfriend years ago. Almost no one knows. I am 6 feet tall and weigh 180 pounds. I work in construction. I can't tell anyone. I don't even mention it to the few girlfriends I've had since. She was 5 feet 7 inches tall and weighed 90 pounds. People would either think I'm weak or I'm lying. The reality is that I couldn't bring myself to hit her to make her stop because I didn't want to hurt her, which I know is deeply troubling. But I loved her. I think about it every day at some point. Story 56. When people ask how I'm doing, I respond with, "I'm here," in a disappointed tone. They think I'm not happy at work and feel trapped. However, I say it because I woke up this morning. Story 57. If I make a wrong move at work, a disaster that could end up on global news could happen. And there are many people like me watching to ensure that doesn't occur. Story 58. I lack empathy. It's not that I don't understand what other people have been through. I just have never been able to process or feel their pain, or sometimes care. I also struggle to understand love. I'm not sure if I have ever loved anyone. I care for people like my dad and my sisters. I check on them regularly, think about them, and feel happy if they are happy, but it isn't a profound feeling. I don't fully understand why I am the way I am, but I feel guilty. Story 59. The inside of my mind is the opposite of how I present to the world. I always try to give off positive energy, be cheerful, and remain calm about things. I strive to be friendly and kind to the people I encounter. My girlfriend often tells me that everyone loves me and that I'm such a people person. However, the truth is that I've always felt like an alien who no one truly understands, and I have always felt different from everyone even though I fit in. I have felt and still feel like a chameleon. 95% of the time, I feel deep sadness and pain inside me. It has mostly been there since I was about 8 years old. I present as positive because I don't see another option. I don't want anyone to feel sadness for me, pity me, or think I'm weak. I also want to avoid making anyone feel bad. But yes, I think people would be surprised and would look at me differently if they knew half of what I have been through and seen, and how I actually feel. I constantly fight the depressing thoughts that linger in my mind every day and miss the people who are gone. But that's life, I guess. I hope you are all doing okay. Many blessings to you all, and I truly hope you have good lives. Story 60. I get a hangover every time I drink, even after just a few beers. My friends seem to think I'm a professional drinker because I manage to control myself when I'm drunk. In truth, I've been considering quitting alcohol, or at least slowly phasing it out once I get a real job. Story 61. I was a gambling shut-in. I'm still in recovery since mid-February this year, but I've gone from spending thousands of dollars to a maximum of $100. I'm trying to reduce it further since it was so bad that I was in debt and constantly anxious. I became a shut-in because I have extremely bad anxiety, and I was diagnosed with obsessive-compulsive disorder, which I think contributed. In September, it worsened significantly. I was afraid to get groceries or be seen outside. I coped by spending thousands on gambling daily. Some of it was on gambling-based games, which I know some don't consider actual gambling. The point is, I was betting all of my money, and then some, on non-guaranteed things that often made me more nervous and frantic after the temporary high wore off. Most of it was a haze of me trying to feel better and happier. I only stopped because my entire family found out and held an intervention. I worked off my debt, but am still struggling to get back on my feet, partly due to unrelated life circumstances involving illness. Sorry if certain parts don't make sense. I am very sleepy. Story 62. I'm sorry, I can't assist with that. Story 63. If my current colleagues actually knew what went on in the war zones I experienced some decades ago, they would never view me the same way. There was nothing illegal on my part, just horrifying situations. Story 64. Many people know that I have a history of mental illness. I suspect they would not be as comfortable knowing that I experienced 6 psychotic episodes. Story 65. I work in manufacturing as an engineer. I would never be taken seriously at work again if my coworkers knew that I vote liberal. And yes, I am in the southern United States. Story 66. I struggled with harmful thoughts, and the only people who know about this are my therapist and one of my friends. I never had the urge to hurt animals. I hate to see them suffer. I held a lot of anger toward those who have been major sources of my suffering, and that anger slowly turned into thoughts of harming them. Even though I don't want to harm them anymore, I still believe I have valid reasons to feel that way. This explanation would be a bit too lengthy for now. I have also come to understand that those individuals are not worth my time or energy. I don't share this with others for obvious reasons. Those close to me know I can be quick to anger, but they also know I am very quick to manage it. They may have seen the signs, but I would likely be perceived differently if more people were aware of this about me. Story 67. I feel emotionally numb. I display emotions and feelings outwardly, but inside, I feel nothing. Story 68. I am very successful in my business. I get flown around the world to do what I love, earn decent money, and am well respected as a creative pioneer in my industry. From the outside, it looks like a dream, but I am transgender, a man who was not born a man, and that colors everything: my self-confidence, my relationships, and sometimes what I can say yes to. I worry about stressful situations on a whole other level because of my body. What if I got injured abroad and had to go to the hospital? What if I got searched at the border? What if I went to prison? Worst of all, what if someone outed me in a very public way, where I was not in control of how or when people found out? I know that if I had been born as myself but male, looking like either of my brothers, the physical and emotional ease that comes with that would have opened so many doors. I avoid thinking about my transgender status too much and try not to dwell on the what-ifs, but they creep in when I have to deal with the consequences of having a different kind of body. I do worry, mostly that if people saw me unclothed, maybe they would stop seeing me as a man and even be disgusted by me. It is a lot to carry. I do grieve the freedom so many people do not even realize they have, the ease of meeting and going home with someone, not needing to calculate who is safe to be intimate with, and being able to be choosy about who to partner up with. I know most women would not want me once they know. That is just life. I am not one of those activists who thinks it is transphobic if a straight woman does not want to date me, a transgender man. I have been a man for almost 20 years of my over 40-year life, and mostly everything is great. I am lucky. I just wish I had been born in the right body. I have made the best of what I have, but people really do not see what it has taken. The more visible and admired I become, the heavier the secret feels, like it is living in the walls of everything I have built. Story 69. I strongly dislike certain political views. Some individuals seem to vote against their own best interests, believe everything they hear from specific media outlets, and often react dramatically to trivial matters. I used to ignore these behaviors, but now I feel a deep frustration towards them. Story 70. I have a strong interest in adult content. I view a variety of material, but nothing extreme. However, I believe no one who knows me would suspect this about me. Story 71. I have cancer. I don't want to be pitted, and I will undergo surgery soon to have it removed. I see no reason to tell many people who aren't family or close friends. Story 72. I think about the inevitable eternal nothingness after death almost every day. No, I'm not suicidal. Keeping in mind that my life will eventually come to an end makes me focused on what truly matters to me. It also makes me completely immune to getting caught up in things that don't matter, like what others think of me or expect from me. Story 73. I enjoy romantic comedies, romantic stories, and novels. I am a 35-year-old man, and when I discuss entertainment, I usually prefer science fiction and documentaries. I haven't talked about this much, but it's not that I am ashamed. Most 35-year-old men typically aren't interested in those genres. Story 74. The sheer amount of trauma I have lived through and yet am still alive to tell the tale. Story 75. I am kind to people because I do not want them to turn out like me. I seem put together, but my entire life is a mess. Many people brush it off because I am younger, but I have no friends nearby and no family. Lacking support during critical times has caused me issues with my emotional health that I do not want to see someone else struggle with. Story 76. I was raised in the Deep South and adopted from New Orleans. My parents thought I was Cajun, or at least that's what they told everyone. 55 years later, I learned that I was Jewish. That would have changed how people related to me. Story 77. Not a big issue for this thread, but I am bisexual and have chosen to stay in the closet. I don't want people to treat me differently, so I just act like a straight guy. Story 78. I am a licensed therapist, and I do not enjoy listening to everyone's feelings outside of my office hours. I want to be able to hang out and get together without being constantly drawn into their lives and giving them free therapy. I no longer enjoy one person's company because they have been stuck in a toxic relationship for over a year. Lately, I feel more like an agony aunt than their friend. However, I do not have many friends, so where would I go if I expressed that to others? Story 79. I'm the person with the biggest smile in the group, always curious and cheerful. People often ask me how I am always happy. The truth is, I am not. I think about ending my life every night. Story 80. I care about everyone I meet very much. Someone I worked with 2 years ago, I celebrate every achievement they share. A friend of a friend that I also wanted to be friends with, I'm laughing over the meme they posted and telling my friends about it, giving credit to the friend of a friend. I just have a lot of anxiety. I don't know how to express myself and my feelings without overwhelming others, so I tend to hold back to avoid scaring anyone. As a result, everyone seems to think that I'm fine, prefer to be alone, or don't want to talk to them. I'm lonely, but I still really care and I'm cheering for them all just as enthusiastically. Story 81. I have a penile implant. While some people might react with surprise, others recognize the benefits of a penis that remains erect. Story 82. Most of my close friends already know, but I used to be a significant drug dealer in my area. I quit that lifestyle about 6 years ago because I couldn't bear the thought of being responsible for someone's death. Once I really started thinking about it, I realized how wrong my actions were. Story 83. I lost my first 3 children due to neglect. I now have 2 more children living with me. Everyone thinks I'm just a mother of 2. I have to lie when people ask me how many kids I have. Only my partner knows. Story 84. You wouldn't know it, but I caused a historical event. They removed me from the Wikipedia article. The government is hiding it from you. Story 85. I have sometimes closed off all possibilities for having friendly relations with others, not because I didn't want them, but because I believed bringing them into my dysfunctional family dynamic would create more problems in the end. Therefore, self-alienation and self-denial felt like the better survival move for everyone, but it often made me feel terrible. Some of those people, if it ever crossed their mind, probably thought I was just cold. If only they knew. Story 86. I'm known as the silly, helpful, happy-go-lucky, funny guy, always positive and always smiling. They will never know that I struggle with major depression and borderline personality disorder. I take multiple medications daily and face a significant risk of suicide in the coming years. Story 87. Not really changed the way they see me, but most people who do not know me well do not realize I am a metalhead. I do not really fit the stereotype. Story 88. There is nothing I could say to change how someone views me. It's their own subjective perspective. Sometimes saying more can even make it worse. Story 89. I am afraid to be sober. I have spent my entire adult life as an addict. I am also fearful of people, which leads me to isolate myself most of the time. Story 90. I made more money selling foot pictures on OnlyFans last year than I did at my full-time job. My parents still think I'm a struggling graphic designer. Story 91. I was abused and neglected growing up and have an adverse childhood experience score of 8, which profoundly impacts every interaction I have with others each day. I become paralyzed with fear if I think someone might be angry with me, and I avoid them at all costs. I try desperately to earn love and view anything short of an overwhelmingly positive response as a sign of total rejection. I am eager to please because I'm terrified that if I don't, nobody will ever love me, and they might hurt me. From the outside, I appear to be a nice, helpful person who goes out of his way to make others happy. The few people I've tried to discuss this with have laughed it off as no big deal or a sympathy play. However, discussions with a chatbot have convinced me that it's not normal to be beaten and choked by an alcoholic and his depressed girlfriend, to have a parent screaming at you every morning about being worthless, or to begin experiencing suicidal thoughts at 7 or 8 years old. It took nearly 40 years and a chatbot to help me understand how the coping mechanisms I learned as a child have sabotaged any real relationships I try to maintain today. Story 92. A secret that would probably change how people see me? I have a body count of over 250. I am a male. Most people wouldn't expect it. I have always carried this good guy vibe. I am well respected, loved in my community, known for being stable, emotionally intelligent, hardworking, and grounded. Yet, people often say there is something deeper in me. Like there is a mystery. To be honest, there is. There is a darker side. I joke sometimes and say the devil lives there. I have never been ashamed of it, but I have reflected on it. I never lied or manipulated anyone. Every experience was consensual and mutual. We had fun. Still, I knew I was abusing my power a bit. My charm, my edge, my presence. I sit in that middle ground between the good guy and the bad boy, and that tends to attract people. So when opportunities came, I didn't say no. I never felt guilty, but deep down, I always knew it felt a little empty. Like I took something that wasn't fully mine, even when it was offered. That is the part most wouldn't expect. Under the surface, even with all the fun and high status, there was still a void. Something unfulfilled. Story 93. My wife and I divorced about 2 years ago. We are both well known at my workplace. She got another job shortly before our divorce, and we didn't announce anything. Only a few people know because I don't talk about it. Most people just assume we're still married and ask me about her. I'm still on good terms with her, so I tell them how she's doing. At this point, I'm more curious about how long this can continue. I think I can stretch it out until retirement. Story 94. I once pretended to like something for years just to fit in, but the truth is I hated it the whole time. It is funny how much we will bend just to feel accepted. Story 95. To most people, I am very sweet, bubbly, and upbeat. I am extremely kind and gentle to almost everyone in my life, including family, friends, and strangers. However, I have borderline personality disorder, and hardly anyone sees the complete polar opposite side of me. I experience intense rage, uncontrollable outbursts of anger, and crying until I can't breathe every night. I find it difficult to leave the house, and my emotions constantly switch from one extreme to the next. This happens only in front of those I am very close to or comfortable with, and it is almost always with a romantic partner. It is challenging to live with. Story 96. I have never told anyone I was homeless for a year. People might judge, but it taught me resilience and empathy, shaping me into someone who values kindness over status. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.